Introducing Nathecia Brooks, better known as Nene. Our first guest needs no introduction. YouTube personality, a daughter, sister, leader, community empowerment, and a licensed certified social worker clinical. Nathecia Brooks doesn't stop with intriguing us. Defying the odds of the American foster care system by striving out of the box of her upbringing, taking her own life at hands, rejecting societal labeling, and succeeding at her own life choices. Nathecia, better known as Nini, is someone that we should all learn from. We thank her for accepting to join our conversation series and be our first guest this season. Join this playful, educational, fun, and fascinating conversation Sunday, March 3rd at 4 p.m. over on Instagram at Youth Agency International HT. Hello, 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 everyone. Hello, 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 everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Hello to everyone who is going to join the live, and hello to everyone who is going to catch the replay. My name is Daisy Love. Actually, my real name is Rebecca. But I like to call myself Daisy. I like to call myself Daisy because I just always felt like I wanted a name to represent who I was. So that's my name. I live in Haiti, in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and I am the founder of the Youth and Young Adults International Agency. I founded the Youth Agency in the year 2012, 2011, and we actually started to have programs out since then. The youth agency is essentially here to provide career development resources to youth and young adults. It is also here to provide a lot of like resources to communities. In the years that I've worked in the youth agency, I've not only worked here in Haiti, but I've also worked in the Caribbean, and I also work in the US. So, the conversation series, what it is, and why am I having the conversation series? The conversation series initially is a series that I started 2 years ago. I started that series because I really wanted to give a platform, a new platform, and I really wanted to showcase people who were doing such an excellent job without necessarily having a spotlight, like a huge visibility on them. I always feel like it's very important as we are growing in our work to make people understand that a lot of times it's really not about the numbers. It's about the quality of the work that you're providing. It's about the level of professionalism that you have. It's about what you have to offer to people. From starting my journey on YouTube to just now, I mean, everyone is doing YouTube now. Everyone has a platform, everyone has a voice, but who gets to showcase, who gets the shine, who gets to be elevated? It is the people who actually take the time to have a degree of professionalism. So this is why I started my conversation series, because I've been following so many people that are doing amazing work that, in my opinion, I get so inspired by them, watching them, seeing their growth, seeing their journey. Just everyday people like you and I, but whom are striving. And I just felt like, wow, these people deserve for everyone to get to know them. Since I have a voice, since I have a platform, I really wanted to showcase who they are. This year, I'm starting my conversation series with an incredible woman. I mean, you guys can see that I'm on time. I'm always so late, so super late, but I just felt so honored. I have been watching Nathecia Brooks since she was in early days in her college and she was living in the dorm. I have seen her get her seasonal job at Macy's. At the time that she started, actually, I'm going to let her introduce herself, but I really wanted to let you know how I actually found her. You know, she used to be on YouTube, a college girl, and at the time she was a makeup. I would say she was a makeup enthusiast. Well, when makeup was not only that popular, but as a black girl, not many people were doing makeup for dark skinned people. And Nene just came online, and her makeup would always be so perfect. And just like all of us, she only had access to, drugstore makeup. But her makeup, I think one of her videos, who's probably over at a million's view, is the video that she has where she does like everyday makeup. It's a simple video, but I swear I always have to go back to her makeup. And it's funny because Nene came online, and Nene came and did makeup at a time where not many people were doing makeup, and then makeup just blew online. However, she never really took on that route. Like, she could have easily become a makeup artist. I mean, so many people are makeup artists, and you don't always have to go to school to be a makeup artist. You can always decide that you are going to be a makeup artist by practicing. However, she didn't. And that's what I really admired about who she had become, because she started YouTube, and then she gradually progressed in life. And we really, through YouTube, I feel like many of us got to see her journey. So she is a professional woman. She is incredible. I am at awe with her. I am so just, she is more than inspiring. So we're going to invite her. We're going to have a lovely conversation with her, and let's request her. Are you here? How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing so wonderful. Today is an amazing day. You are so beautiful. I mean, guys, take a minute to look at her. You are so beautiful. I mean, look at you.
Thank
Oh
you.
my God. And I can't believe it. Like, from this YouTube, watching you all those years on YouTube, and here we are. Oh my God. I am honored. I feel struck, like literally. I feel like, oh my God, like I'm meeting a celebrity. That's what I'm meeting. A
Man.
real celebrity. Wow.
That's flattering. Thank you so much. I was listening to you speak and I was like, oh my God, right? Like, you don't really know who's watching you. You really don't. So I appreciate it. I tell you all the time. Thank you so much for all that you say.
Meaning, I mean, we've talked behind the scenes for a little time,
Yes.
and I've obviously let you know that, I've been following you for the longest of time on YouTube. And today, in honor of who you are, because what the series is about is that as I mentor young people, and I mentor young people in a country that is extremely chaotic,
Yeah.
and my youth are always discouraged. It takes so much for them to not only stay focused, but to just be dedicated. And I just really want to provide a lot of support to them, and to really showcase to them that, hey, people do strive, people do progress. Everyone has a lot of challenges. It's always about the
Yeah.
mindset. It's always about, how you can overcome those challenges. So with that being said, I want you to, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit, first and foremost, about the beginning years of your YouTube
Oh,
journey.
man. Okay. So I started YouTube. Had to been the year before I graduated. I think 2011 or so. And I was going into my senior year of high school. And two reasons, okay, why I started. The first reason was my mom didn't really have money to help me upkeep myself, my hair, my like that. So I knew that was a way to help you make money. I just didn't know how much money. So that was one reason. Second reason was I was in, at that time I was 17. The girls in high school, they was looking really good. You know, they were wearing dresses and wearing their makeup and putting their clothes on. And I was like, 18 now, you know, like it's not. But I had no idea how to do makeup. But one of the things about me is I can look at something and I can learn it. So I said, well, you don't know how to do it. You know how to teach yourself. How about you teach others how to do it while you're walking through this process? So that's
Oh,
what
hold on a minute. Give me 1 second. The people are saying that there is an echo. Are you using a mic?
I'm not using a mic.
I'm not using a mic. My volume is really up. I'm not so sure. I do hear a little bit of it. Can you hear me clearly? Do you hear me clearly as I speak?
Yeah, but when I joined, it did pick up the echo.
I see it.
I was
But I can hear you really well, so I don't want you to stop what you're saying. But they were saying that there is an echo; they can't really hear us. Hopefully, let's continue and let me see what they're saying.
we'll
So
do
go ahead.
this. Try muting yourself on your end, and then let's see if it goes away.
All right.
Okay. So thank y'all for telling us. Tell me if that is helpful. Does that sound better? And if so, then we could. Okay. Let's see what they say in the comments though, because if that sound better, then I'll make sure when you speak, I'll mute myself. Can y'all tell me in the comments, did the echo go away? Can you hear? That's good. Okay, bet. Okay, that sounds cool. Thank you. So yeah, so when I started YouTube, I I just saw the girls in high school was really, you know, looking good. And I'm like, it's time for you to really step up, Nene. But I didn't know how to wear makeup at all. And again, I knew my mother didn't have all of the money to help me with the makeup they was using and wearing expensive brands. At that time, it was MAC, right? And I ain't got that to be up in Sephora. So if those for those who remember, I started off as drugstore queen Nene, right? Because all of my products was from the drugstore, and I didn't really know how to use or how to get the perfect face. I just was learning, but I have a gift of teaching. So I knew that once you teach yourself, you can teach others. And that's just kind of how it started from there. I just got a big crowd on YouTube like, oh, this girl, you know, is doing her makeup and she's doing it simply, right? And I don't like too many intricate steps and details and stuff like that. Like I'm a simple girl. So that really was just my niche, working with beginner friendly women who didn't know how to do makeup, but they wanted to learn and they wanted affordable products with this was just a simple beat face. And that's just how I started on YouTube.
Great. Now, one thing that I really want to ask is, what kept you away from becoming a makeup artist? Because so many people became makeup artists and you were extremely good at that. So what kept you away from that?
That's a good question. Makeup was not really a passion of mine. And for me, if I'm going to put my energy into anything that's just present day Nathecia, I have to make sure that it's serving a purpose for me and it's something I'm passionate about. I have learned that if I'm not passionate about something, it's wasteful and I'm not going to really strive to my full potential. So I always tell people I'm good at makeup, but I'm not passionate about makeup. Those who, really went on the career as a makeup artist, that was just their passion, like they really enjoyed that. So they invested so much. So no, it just wasn't a passion of mine. I had always said on my YouTube channel, I like to talk. I have a voice, right? So although I like to be pretty and show you how to be pretty, I like to talk about deeper stuff, right? So I just never pursued it because it just wasn't a passion. It was just something that was fun and I was good at doing.
Awesome. Now, Nini, where did the Where's My Tea series come about?
Now, Where's My Tea was my baby. Oh my God, I love Where's My Tea. And so many people love Where's My Tea. How did that come about? Well, in my makeup videos, I would just talk. Whatever topic it was that I wanted to talk about, whether it was just my own self-esteem issues, or whatever stuff that I just been through, I seen, I would just talk about those things. And then I would just kind of give my own opinion about them, my own insight. And from there, people would say in the comments, like, girl, can we send you in our problems and you tell us? Because it seemed like you got all of the answers. So I'm like, sure. Honestly, I have always been known as the friend that gives good advice. That has followed me since I was just young. And I love giving good advice. Now, my older me, it's advice, but I just have the gift of wisdom. You know, like God just kind of tells me I have the eyes to see. I can see a situation beyond what it is. So I've just always been the one to give advice. So when people, would send me the emails, I'm like, okay, how do I make this interesting, right? And at that time, the word was just popping, like, ooh, that's tea, oh, that's tea. So I'm like, okay, let's come up with this segment called Where's My Tea? And people loved it. People loved it. And I loved it too. Where's My Tea was so fun. And the purpose of it was not to drag anybody. It was not to make anybody feel bad, but it was more so of like, let me tell you, something that somebody around you that loves you need to tell you. I don't know where you're going to hear this from, but if you're not getting it from home, if you're not getting it from your friends, you're going to get it from me. And I need you to listen to it. And the beautiful thing about Where's My Tea, I would get emails and it would say like, Nene, I took your advice and it worked. And that there, it was just like, no, okay, God, like I'm just not out here giving unsolicited advice. I'm not out here just talking crazy. Like people who's actually sending in the emails, you are willing to hear what I have to say, but it just made my heart full that people will actually go do the work. And you will go do what I would tell you to do. And then you would come back and say, Nee, that was hard to hear, but it actually really did help me. And that's what kept me going with Where's My Tea. So I just was dropping my own opinions at the time, but doing it so gracefully, and people wanted their own insights on their own life.
I love it because you went from, just doing makeup to having a Where's My Tea series. To me, that was everything. I mean, I think we all tuned into that series because that was my Saturday morning. That's how I woke up with Where's My Tea. And I love the fact that sometimes you were honest. You're like, today we don't have tea, we're having water, or whatever you were having. You're like, girl. And then it's just the whole way it felt. It was just not scripted, and you definitely gave constructive advice. You did not drag the people who wrote to you. You gave the story like it was. You had your own twist, and with the words, the personality came out. I mean, it was everything. And I think in every scenario, we could see ourselves. Sometimes people are not open to just go ahead and tell people about what they're going through in life, to be to tell people their tea. But people trusted you, and I feel like I don't see it on YouTube these days. For me to be following you for so many years, and now to decide that I really want to invite that woman in, like I've been following her. It's the trust level that I have that people create on their platform. And I find that because YouTube has become, not only YouTube, social media in general has become what it is, that people who are joining or people who were there for a long time, they're losing that touch of understanding that you actually have to build a community, but you build your community out of trust. You don't build a community just because you have content, because the reality is that people can sense when something is not genuine. So for you to only have been very, very young, because you were young when you started that Where's My Tea, and for people to trust you enough to send you those messages is because they saw something in you. You always, I think that you have an also meaning. I really feel like you do, because I always say that I am much more older than you, but I get so inspired by you. I really feel like you have an also as well. Did your podcast idea also came from that?
First of all, thank you. I always tell people I've lived before. I've been here before. I always say it, and honestly, I do believe that. Like since I was young, people have always told me, "You're an old soul. You're an old soul," right? And I feel it. I do believe it. One of the things about my online, I do not play about my reputation, and I do not play about just how I present myself, right? So when I did start to come online, I tried to make sure, Nathecia, you stay as authentic as you can. Like really just be yourself. And in order for me, and this is for anybody, in order for you to really be yourself, you have to know who you are. And a lot of times people struggle with being authentic because they don't really have a good sense of who they are, right? So when Where's My Tea came about, I want to talk on the trust. I made sure that my audience did not attack the people that came in. That just was something I was not having, because at that time, the YouTube comment section was nasty, and I thank God to this day, I've never had to endure on my channel any type of bullying, hate speech. Ain't nobody came talking crazy to me on YouTube. And I see it in people's comments, and I ain't never really had to deal with that. I may have had an instance or two, but not too much. But when it came to where's my tea, people was really bearing out their secrets, like this is their real lives that they was talking about. And at that time, Daisy, I probably was like 19, 20. I wasn't, I didn't have all the knowledge and the wisdom that I have now. But honestly, sometimes I look at them videos and I'm like, go ahead, Nene, because I say the same stuff today, right? But I tried to make sure that my audience received my writers too, because I call my audience my boos, right? Like, y'all my girls. And one of the things, in life, I just kind of feel like we have to create a sense of community amongst each other, especially when it comes to women. Women struggle a lot with trusting other women, because when we lay our all of our stuff out, you got the girls that's judging the girls. You got, hold on. Okay, there you go. You got the girls that just be judging women, right? And that will make you more guarded. So I wanted to make sure if people trusted me, I want to show you that you have to be trusted too. You can always give your opinion, but watch how you speak to people and don't be too judgy. So I would always say, tell her or give her advice. Don't tell her what you wouldn't do. Don't tell her what she shouldn't have done. She already heard that in this video. What's her advice? How does she move forward? Because that's the answer. You get what I'm saying? We can't talk about what has happened. Where do we go from there? So from Where's My Tea, I really stopped doing that. It was a whole situation in college which just kind of pulled me away from Where's My Tea. But to move on to Heard and Healed, my podcast, again, I have so much to say, right? And I just knew that I'm a servant, like God really created me to be that. And I wanted to create a platform where I could use my own life experiences and then teach people and or relate to people with their own life experiences and how I'm working through it and how you can work through it, right? Just using practical tips, things that I had to do that gave me good results. So it was different. This wasn't, Where's My Tea was like your life issues and your stuff, and I'll give you, but then it was more so Heard and Heal was like deeper. This is more, I'm applying my therapeutic knowledge, and this is my own stories, right? Because one of the things that make you relatable is that when you show your own vulnerability, and like a woman like myself, you would think that, oh, I'm just oh so perfect, right? Like, oh, she must not have nothing going on in her life. No, 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 no. I got a lot going on, okay? But the difference between you and I is that I'm trying to face it, right? And let me show you what I'm doing just to deal with it. So that's what happened with Heard and Heal, my podcast.
Nice, love it. Now, Nini, do you feel that you have so much to say to other people and they say that you are relatable? Do you find that it's because of your upbringing? And if you're comfortable with that, walk us through your upbringing, like who you are, how your journey really started.
What? Why do people call me relatable? I think it's my vulnerability. Like a lot of times people won't talk about what they really got going on until they hear somebody else talking about it. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I went through that too, right? So I think that's where that comes from. And I noticed that that gave a positive feedback, like a lot of people are struggling, Daisy, and all it takes is just one to admit that we're struggling. And imagine all of the other people that be like, yes, me too. It takes one person to take the mask off. Really, it's so empowering. And I just kind of had to realize, like, what's so scary about just facing it, because there's life on the other side. Okay. So I think that's where the relatability comes in. And again, I'm just myself, like I don't have time to be putting on. It's too much energy. It is too much energy to try to be somebody, act somebody. I ain't got time for that, okay? Like, I'm just not gonna make the time either. As far as my upbringing, okay, so that's a big question. So I'll try to just narrow it. When I was younger, I had always knew that I was different. You just kind of have this, you just have this feeling like I'm just different. And it wasn't in a sense that I was better than. It was more so in the sense of like I know how to solve this, or I know what it takes for this, right? And I didn't understand how I knew these things, but the people around me who was much older didn't know these things. Fun fact, people don't know, but I actually taught myself how to read and write. um, I went to school. My parents both were drug addicts. My father was in and out of jail. There were times where my siblings and I, we didn't go to school whatsoever. But because of my housing environment, school was really my outlet. Like, I was a smart girl. So going to school was just a way where I can just kind of be. I felt comfortable. I loved learning. I loved getting new information. I remember I went to school once and we had just started learning how to read, you know, the alphabet, the consonants, the words, right? And I really liked that segment, you know, of just learning how to read. But then I didn't go to school again. And it was just, some days I just didn't make it. Some days my mom didn't force me to go. And I remember, like, okay, I remember learning this in class the other day, and I need to know how to read and I need to know how to write. So back in the day, well, they probably still do it now. Like, in order to write, they have like the little dots and you have to trace the letters and stuff like that. I remember my teacher had did a lecture on that the whole day in class. So I'm like, okay. And I went home and I just practiced it and practiced it. But then I missed a couple days and I missed a week or so and I didn't get it. So I just kept trying to practice and I just kept trying to read. So I taught myself how to read and write. But again, I was a young girl. So I knew, like, girl, you different. Like, so many, right? Like, how are you able to do this at such a young age, right? As I grew older, I was placed in a foster care system, and I tell people I have a heart, a soft spot for foster children because in that system, it forces you to grow up. Like, you don't necessarily have parents, you know, you just have a caseworker and they're responsible for you, but they live their lives. So they place you wherever you are, whether it's a group home, whether it's a foster home, and you just kind of have people that's looking after you, but these people don't build no connections with you at all. You know, like they're not, they just don't, you know, foster parents, group home workers, they don't necessarily have the expertise and they don't have the empathy. So you're kind of just on your own as a foster child. So when I entered into the system, and the one way that I navigated myself through the system was, Nathecia, you're going to have to go within and you're going to have to figure out a lot of stuff on your own. You don't have people around you to tell you what to do. You know, you don't have the things. So you're going to have to figure stuff out. So that was just my mindset, you know, as I was just navigating and growing up. It wasn't until I got adopted out of the system. And I speak so highly of my mother today, you know, like, God sent me a true angel because it took for her to really pour into me. So all of the things that I was trying to give myself, I finally was receiving it from someone. That's different. You know, we all like to be validated. We all like to be reassured. I went a lifetime without having any of that. So yes, I can tell myself like how to make a decision. Yes, I can tell myself this what you need to do. But it's different when somebody on the outside say, do you know you are absolutely brilliant? And how did you figure that out at your young age? That's different to have somebody telling you that. That's different. So when I met my mother, man, like, she just built my esteem. And it was like, whoa. She really laid the foundation of just highlighting to me who I was. You know, I had no idea. I just was going through life doing what works. So my mom really just helped instill and create. I don't want to say create me, but she had a lot to do with how confident I am today, how I show up today, my sureness in myself today, the leadership side. It took for someone to love me and to see me, to pour into me, to help me become. And that's why today I make sure I pay it forward to anybody that I see. I pour into you. I show you what love looks like. And I see it all around me. When people meet me, their life changes. I mean, just like that. If it's a little kid, if it's somebody my age or an adult, just because I just show them that same pouring, because I saw what it took. When I pour right into them, they change. It's amazing to see sometimes, like, whoa, they just switch. So I hope I answered that question. It was a big question, but I tried to narrow it.
Mimi, you are so amazing. You are definitely, and also, someone told me this years and years ago when I first started to work in the United States. I must have been 17, and the lady said that to me. She was 28. She said, "You have an also," because a lot of my friends were a lot more older than I was. And at the time, I didn't quite understand what she meant. But as I grew and I, at times, relate to a lot more younger people than myself, I now understand what she meant. And your voice is so soothing. I don't know if you've ever had an entire chart done. I know that you are in Aries, Sun, but you probably have Cancer placement somewhere in your chart because you are soothing. Like just hearing you talk, you are comforting. Like people just want to like hug you, even when I go back and forth to you and message. And you got to be careful with that because one thing, because I have been busy, but you do have this inside of you where people just feel open to just talk to you. I mean, we are doing this today, but we've been chatting for quite some time, right? And it's just that you're so open. So I find that if you don't have the necessary boundaries, you may find yourself to be drained because it's just you are so open, you are so caring. So people are going to get very drawn to you. People are going to be very, because I have the same thing. People are very drawn to me and people, open up to me. But I learned to really have boundaries because not so long ago, I've just had a situation where I just felt like someone just ripped me apart by just kind of like probably unknowingly hurt me because they are not like me. They are a little on the selfish side, but I just felt like that just crushed me to just see. And they did it inadvertently. But what that taught me, that lesson, what it had taught me is that you're just too open. You're too open. You let people come into your life for any and everything, and you just pour and you pour and you pour. And when the person just shuts down, it just leaves you empty. You just feel drained. You just feel like you have nothing anymore. And it's like, but they probably don't even know that they've done so to you. It's just that you've been so open and have been given, and then you don't have any boundaries. So it happened recently. And to be very honest with you, ever since that situation, after the hurt and after placing a lot of boundaries, girl, even my physical appearance has changed. It just feel like a 360 because I just felt like all of the focus that I put on people, even through my YouTube, I just decided that let me put a little bit back inside of me. I need love too. I need to do something for me. I need to pour that same energy that I'm okay to pour into people. Let me just be focused. Let me just put this on me. And for people like you and I, it can be hard. For anyone, it's probably not hard because usually people put themselves first. But for people who are givers, we have the tendency to just give. So it's natural for us to just give and to just open ourselves up to people. But the reality is like, not many people are, like us, and people will take. So that's something that I found. Just even hearing you talk, you have a soothing voice, like a calming voice, a loving voice. So this is just like a little 1 2 1 2 to just find out because I could relate to you. Be careful with that lane. Now, one thing that I want.
Can
Okay,
I
go ahead.
let me comment on that, Daisy. I'm sitting here like, yes, and clapping because you're preaching. This is what I realized, right? There's so much darkness in the world, and because of your light, people are going to be gravitated to you. That means people that's seeking, the light from other light, but also darkness too, right? And that's one of the downsides of being empathic, because I am completely empathic. I knew that, right? um you are susceptible to attracting anything, right? Meaning you're going to have people that want to come to you that actually want to build a good and healthy connection to you, but you're going to have people that come and want to just take from you, and they don't know how to give nothing back to you. And I really was a victim of that. Like, my excuse was this: I'm just being me. That was my excuse, right? Like, I'm just being me. And I really had to say, well, you're going to have to figure out how to be something else other than you. Because being you, you're lacking boundaries, right? And you're becoming overwhelmed, and you pouring, but like, where's this cup, right? So now, like, at 29, anybody who wants to get close to me, I'm guarded. Like, hey, how you doing? You cute, wish you well. But I'm not really welcoming you into my circle, because what are you here for? You know what I mean? What are you here for? Because I get this all the time. You just seem so warm and so inviting. You want some of what I got. But see, you're going to have to replenish that. And honestly, that's just the way it looks for me. Like, this is not just, oh, I do so much for you and I uplift you. And it's no, that's a gift. Okay. And God doesn't tell me to give my gift to everybody. That don't work that way. So my boundaries now look like, who do you allow to get close to you, right? And then also, how much do you give? What's the I don't know the scripture that say don't cast your pearls on swine or something like that, meaning stop giving so much to people that's not meant to receive it. And people got to remember that, right? Like, just because you want to pour, just because you feel like this person needs to hear this, doesn't necessarily mean that you got to go and do it, right? Because the moment you give somebody light, you don't know who they are. You don't know what their motives are. And they may attach themselves to you just to get some of that. Okay.
Girl, this conversation is taking another turn, and I love it. I just really love it. I love it. Because the reality is, with the last part that you said, you may give people your life and they attach to you, is a situation that I've faced since the last 2.5 years. This is why, even in the Bible, in our spirituality, our parents, they teach us to just not associate everyone as a friend. Once people figure out who you truly are, these people in here in my country, we don't even have like a police where you can, when people start to stalk you. And there's different dimension also here in Haiti where people can go to a very, very dark extent to drag you and attach themselves to you. People can actually do a lot of like spiritual work around that, right? Where they are literally captivating your energy and attaching themselves to you just because they realize that I need to have that person around me. And it could be anywhere from workplace employment, like you go into a workplace and your boss, your supervisor, people who are on top, they really feel like you have something to offer, and they can really maneuver and manipulate you. So just like you these days, I have become so secluded with myself. But also, when people really start to understand who they are and their spirituality starts to deepen, it's kind of like you are open to everything. You are open to good, and you are also open to bad. And you also open to people who can see who you are, right? My family has been at me because I don't go out like that. And one of the reasons that I don't go out is because these days I can directly see through people, and I could see your intention. And I don't want the same thing. I don't want people to look at me and be like, girl, who are you? And I actually want to have you around me. And even with my YouTube, for the past 2.5 years, I haven't really given out some information the way that I'm usually so open and I'm usually so sharing with people. Is because I realize that people are watching you. People are actually watching what you're saying, and they're putting one and one together, and they're understanding that you have a lot going on. So you got to be careful with what you're saying online. You got to be careful with the message that you are saying. So I'm very careful with that.
Yeah. Daisy, you hit the nail on the head. I don't know if it was you who told me this years ago or if it was someone else. They came into my DM and they told me, they said, Nini, stop telling everything that you plan to do because you do not know who's watching you. And you do not, everybody who's watching you don't have the best, that they don't want the best for you. So I kind of didn't take it serious until I started to grow spiritually. And I'm like, oh, now shit, I'm gonna tell you about what I'm doing when it's already done, right? Like I just completely switched it because I saw God's favor. And it leads me to this point. What did you say? Sometimes people see you, and this is why I always tell people I need you to see yourself, because if you don't see yourself, there's takers out there who see you before you see you, and they will leech on it. Listen, I done had some relationships, you hear me? And they saw me before I didn't even see me. My value was low, my self-worth was low, and they was just eating it up. So the people who walk around is like, I got a big heart. You know you got a big heart, stop giving it to everybody. Because the person that you giving your heart to, they know it, but you don't know it. That's why they keep hurting you. And you keep, listen, we can go deep. I know we got to move forward. But no, truly, you have to understand who you are and what you have. Because if you don't, somebody else will. And that makes you susceptible to the dangers. Okay?
Definitely. I mean, we could be here forever, like I said to you, because this conversation feels so like I'm talking to a girlfriend. I'm so happy. And I knew it was going to be a great conversation. I want to echo two things that you said. I want to give a little story about this guy that I met online in the year 2009 or so. This is just right before my journey. Around that time, I was in Canada. And it was, I don't want to go into it, but it was really strange the way that that person, around the time I had a Facebook account, and you know how Facebook, you actually have to request the person. So he requested me, and I didn't know who he was. I was very, like, not really wanted. But usually, sometimes what we did is like you look at the mutual friends that you have in common with the person, and if you feel like you have enough friends in common, it may just be someone that you knew, someone who knows you, so I accepted it. Long story short, that person befriended me. And when I moved back to Haiti, they continued to befriend me. And initially, the youth agency is a project that they wanted to, that I said to them that let's do it. But you know what? One day I was having a conversation with that person, and they said to me something about my poetry, which I write. But around that time, the online, nobody knew that I wrote unless you went to high school with me, because I started to write poetry in high school. But I would always win some type of, like, little stuff in school, and they publish it. And what I found out when that person said to me, hey, yes, I know you wrote, like, they were telling me about my attribute. And I'm like, but how do you know that I write? And they said, I Googled your name. So that took me such by surprise, because now I felt invaded. I felt like, wow, like you actually requested me, but you researched who I was. You Googled my name, you Googled who I was, my accomplishment, what I did, and then you befriended me. So this to echo what you just said about people will, figure you out, figure who you are, and get under you just because they want something out of you. So it happens to everyday people. So that's why we have to be extremely careful. Now to move on, I want to say to you two things. When you echoed about the being relatable on YouTube and just being able to be a little vulnerable, I experienced that in two story times that I did where I just felt like I wanted to talk about my parents and some issues that I had going on here, which I don't necessarily do on YouTube. I like to keep my YouTube for, a Haiti topic. And when I did so, I'm telling you, my comment section was off the roof. It was off the roof. I literally had over maybe 30 something comments. Usually people don't really comment because my topics are pretty, political and stuff like that. But this is just to tell you that And all the comments also, and I didn't even really go into detail about the story time, what went down, but just the outpour of people saying things like, oh, I went through this with my grandmother. Oh, just like when my grandmother said so to me. Just like, when people did this to me, when people did that to you. So that made me feel like, wow, like my community actually needed this from me. They needed to know that, hey, because a lot of times I feel like people look at me that, I don't show these aspects of my life. But if people knew what I went through living here, I mean, they would be very surprised and shocked. But a lot of times, like you said, it just takes that one person to open up and say, hey, this is what I'm going through. This is what I went through. For people to feel, even if they're not ready to share, but to feel relieved, to feel a sense of, oh, I'm not the only person who's going through it. Like, oh, like I would never know that you are going through this. But it's very important, and I definitely agree with you when you talk about that. And the other thing that I really want to ask you is because I remembered the story time that you talked about the adoption, and you talked about like you all when you saw your mother and you said that's her. That's what you said. You said I said that's her. So I want and hearing you talk about your mom and giving her such credit for and you were adopted fairly a little older, not necessarily as a young child, but to not be ungrateful, to have such love, dedication for that woman. I want to ask you if you feel like do you feel like that woman was the mother that was this time for you? I mean, it's kind of weird to say that. I don't want to offend your birth mom, but a lot of times people birth us, and we don't have a connection with them, or they don't necessarily love us. A lot of us have a strange relationship with our birth parents, and we connect so much more to maybe an aunt, a grandmother, or a stranger. Do you feel that your adoptive mother is kind of like the mother that God had for you?
The Bible says God writes the end before the begin, right? Um, I love telling this story because you can just kind of see God really had his hands on this. But my adopted mother, I call her my mom, she didn't even want to go that day. Like she was not going to even show up that day. She had a good girlfriend and her girlfriend was like, just go, like just go. And she got herself ready last minute. Like, all right, let me just get up and go. Me, that was her point of view. For me, it was more so of like, here we go again. Okay. A kid in the foster care system. I'm older at this point in the system. The older kids get looked over, because people don't want to deal with the behavior issues. So that was my story. It was more so like, I just had no expectations. It really was just like, I'm just going because I need to go, right? Like, I have to go to an event. And it was an adoption, like fostering expo where you have these children there and then you have parents so that's interested in them. Just come look at them, okay? So I went with the expectation of like, I ain't gonna find nobody, right? Like another one of these things, like just follow me. I really hadn't. It was just like I'm just going, and I hate it. But at that age, I was 11. My mind was desperation at this point. It was just like at this point, I'm tired of being passed up. I was in 7 different group homes, 3 different foster homes on my numbers, 3 different foster homes, 7 different group homes. I was all over. At this point, I just wanted stability. So I didn't care who took me. The foster home that I was in at the moment, she was abusive and I didn't like her and she didn't even love me, but it was just like, if this lady gonna adopt me so we can just get out the system, I will figure out the rest of my life from there. So that was my mindset. Like, I just need someone to take me in. I will figure out the rest. Imagine a kid saying that they're gonna figure out the rest of their life, but I'm being honest with you, I'll figure out the rest. So I get told that I'm going to this adoption expo, and I remember my foster mother, she just had this energy like, yeah, whatever. Like, she didn't think I was going to find anyone either, okay? So I get to this adoption expo, and my brother is there, and I hadn't seen this brother in years. We were separated together, and I hadn't seen him in a long time. So he's there, and I'm absolutely through the roof. So I was so excited I was able to go there, because just imagine my blood brother is here, and we are reconnecting. I am through the roof. So we playing basketball. I don't even care about what's going on. At this point, it's just like I'm just at an event. You know what I mean? Like I'm just out the house. Um, I'm chilling with my brother, and something just tells me to look at the door. Something just tells me in my body, and I look at the door. And as I'm looking at the door, I see this woman looking at me. And something again tells me, go talk to her. So I'm like, go talk to her. Like, what? Go talk to her. So I go over to speak to her. And we just, you see how you and I just got familiar so quick. We just acquainting. We going for it. We just talking, what we like to do. You know, this she telling me she'll take me shopping because I tell her I like shopping, XYZ. We gonna go out to eat. We just chit-chatting. And I say to her, you gonna be my mother. I say that to her. And I don't know what it was like. I think I asked her, like, what was that like for you to hear me say that? And she was like, this girl, you know what I mean? Like, who this young girl telling me that? But I tell her that. Now, I didn't know, you know what I mean? But I just felt safe. I felt safe. You know, I just felt like this woman really sees me, and she's talking to me differently than all the other adults talk to me. All the other goddamn adults in my life talk to me like a little kid. They never looked at me. They didn't even hear me. You know what I mean? This woman is engaging in conversation with me. And at 11, I finally got an adult in my life that sees me more than just these titles and the paperwork that's associated with me. Like, that was different. So when it when it came down to me actually living with her, because we would do like visitations and stuff like that, right? I remember this one particular Sunday, I did not want to go back to my old foster home. I just didn't want to go back that day. And we did this, you know, like we knew the expectation. You come, you visit for a weekend, you go back home. But this one particular weekend, I just didn't want to go back. Like, I was like, I'm tired of this. Like, I like it here. My mother had a room for me. It was personal. She did everything in that room. It was mine. That felt like my home. I go to her and I'm like, do I really gotta go back? So she give me the same spiel, like, yes, boo, you gotta go back, you know. I know you don't like it. And I know that crushed her. I know my mother didn't really show me all of her emotions, but I could feel that she did not like that. I leave her room, and I finally come back into her room, and I ask her again, do I really gotta go? And girl, she says to me, you ain't gotta go, you home. And I was like, huh? She was like, you home. She had just got off the phone with my social worker, and the social worker had approved she can stay there long term. And it was like the best day of my life. And I know my mother was so emotional to tell me, like, you home, baby. She just got off the phone because it was hurting her. She hated to have to go drop me off and I waved bye. She hated it. So when you ask me, was she the person meant for me? Absolutely. Because the way that we was gravitated to each other, I can't explain that to nobody else, you know. It was set for her and I to meet each other. My social worker had told her to come to the event because she had me in mind. I didn't know this, right? My mother had no idea what I looked like. I had no idea what she looked like. But something told me, go talk to that lady at the door. And finally, when my social worker comes, she says, Barbara, Nathecia, these was the two I wanted y'all to meet. And we like, oh girl, you late. You are late. We've been met. So when you ask me, no, God orchestrated that. That was divine. You know, so she always tell people, I feel like I birthed her. And I know she didn't birth me. But, you know, my mother, she was meant to be my mom. She was made for me, and I know for a fact I was made for her. Yeah.
Wow, you make me feel like I want to cry. You don't. I have to come. I will fly out just to hug you because for anyone who is probably going to Russia, or for your public, I am a Haitian woman, and with the Haitian culture, it's looking very, very down upon if you don't have children. It's looking just weird. Especially if you can, it's not like people don't understand that the concept of just choosing not to have children, which I don't feel like I necessarily chose not to have them. I just felt like in the last 10 plus years, the way that my life just switched up. It's kind of like I just came home and it's like it was a whole life journey that I literally dedicated myself toward. And I never really focused on relationships and marriage. And it just has been more so my life, my journey and a little bit more of my career and baby at the forefront. And in the last, I would say since I came back when I was 35. I'm now 40 years old. Yeah, I've dated, and it had crossed my mind that maybe it should really look into starting a family. But because of my work, I always felt like I just never felt that connection. I always felt like no, I really want to continue. Like I really want to push the youth agency forward. Like from just seeing so many just complete mess in Haiti and how people use children in Haiti. And I just felt like, for me, just the youth agency has to be that platform. Like I need to put it up because it is just going to be a superb platform for Haiti. And I always felt, and I told my subscribers, because here and there you get people who hit on you, and you get people who write to you, complete mess, these old Haitian people. And then I, open up and let them know that, in life sometimes being a mom doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be pregnant and push children. You can be a mom otherwise. You can be a mother by being caring for anyone. So just hearing you talk so fondly of your adopted mom, because look at Haiti, you have people who they just are absolutely not qualified to be parents, but they have kids just to have them, and they'll continuously have them. You have a system here. We don't have foster care. I have a video on my platform on adoption, but hey, that is just a whole other. Because you literally okay. Let me not say what I was going to say because I don't want to offend the public. I know American people use very sensitive, but here in Haiti, you have people who will have kids, put them in. So for you guys, it would be foster care. For us, it's more so like a rest avec. We call it a rest avec situation because these kids are placed in home, but they do their house chores. So they mop, they sweep, they feed the dog, they wash the dishes, and they get leftover foods. A lot of times they don't go to school. Sometimes they are raised in these homes. That is the situation here with I. But you would have people who place their kids in these type of, risk type of situations, but they continue to have kids. They don't understand that you are actually placing your children away because you can't support your children. But for them, it's like, no, I have to. I mean, I have a whole video on that. So if we went into it, it would be forever. But just to show you the mindset, of people, culture differences, right? So it's always kind of like people look at me like, especially my parents they do well, So you have people who don't even have and they have kids, so they're not relating to me like you got all this and you don't have a husband, you don't want to, you don't want to actually give birth, and you get lectured by that, and it's that whole cultural concept that they're not understanding that technically Haiti would be in a much more better place if women understood that if you can't afford kids, you really shouldn't have them. Because it's not even about the whole money thing, because it's about the emotional, it's about supporting your children, it's about just being present for your child that people are not understanding that they're not. So just hearing you talk about, your adoptive mom, it's for someone like myself, who wants to continuously work with young people. It's just it does something to my soul. So I really want to thank you. And I love that we're talking about that because I know that I'm going to put this conversation in my YouTube pages. And hopefully they too, when they rewatch it, they can understand the power, the love that can really come. But also I want to say this. Your mother, it was an instant connection. You never address that woman as a adoptive mom. You always say that she's your mother. So I want people to know that because if you felt in your heart that she had withhold from you, if you felt in your heart that that woman didn't really give her all, you would have felt it. So I need for people who are of my culture to understand that when it comes to loving, there is something you cannot love the condition. You gotta love without the condition. So if you can't, well, I mean, that's another book because it's not like sometimes, yeah, I swear this is just another level because a lot of time with the Haitian people, it's, let's just say that you and I were sisters, and here you are in the U.S., and here I am in Haiti, and you see everything that's going on in Haiti, you would literally feel obliged to take on my children. So that's the culture. So a lot of times it wouldn't be like, oh, like I have, let me sport, but it would be kind of like a feeling that you would feel like if you don't do it, I'm going to think a particular way about you because here you are in the U.S. and here I am in Haiti. Like you would feel obliged, but you're not taking my kids because you really want to take my kids. You're just doing it. So when my kids come be with you, then there comes the whole resentment. Maybe you're not treating them the way that they're supposed to be treated because it's like you got your own thing going on. Sometimes the life of an immigrant. They don't got much, but it's kind of like a small space. But you see all of that we sometimes as immigrant people that we go through. But anywho, I want to. We're still on one chapter in Phoenix, but tell me, Nini, two things to close off with YouTube. I want to know that one thing that I admired with your YouTube journey is your ability to maneuver the streets of YouTube. I found that a lot of people are never understanding that, especially for younger people who join YouTube, like in their teens, early 20s. The content that you are providing in your 20s is not necessarily going to be the same content that you're going to provide in your 30s or in your 40s. So that means that you haven't grown. The public should be able to understand that they're not looking at that same young girl. They're looking at a woman who has grown, who has matured. But a lot of times, just watching people who constantly do the same thing and they don't evolve with the YouTube, or they're just so afraid to lose the subscribers, lose the numbers and all of that. Did you ever feel as because you navigated? I mean, we saw you doing makeup, doing Where's My Tea. There was a period of time where you were in after college where you kind of did a little vlogging, which I loved. When you show and you talk, and there were times where you just vlog in your home, and then it gradually evolved because you became a professional woman. So now, not necessarily being constantly in YouTube, but whenever you are on YouTube, to just being that professional woman. I told you I watched your becoming. I think it's like to become the vision board that you did. And I said, this is when I said, oh, girl, no, put that woman in. She's going to have to be here because when I do my coaching and mentorship program, your work was that level. It was that was nothing. I learned a lot from it. Everything was Polish. It was just quick. It felt like I hope that people who watch that live, either if they saw the replay or if they were there, I really hope that they understand what you gave to your channel because that presentation is worthy of a powerful presentation that someone do at work. You gave out, and plus, I actually wanted you to do one for me, and you said, "Oh, it took so long. It took a long time. It's going to take a long time. Let's do the conversation instead." It was just everything, and it's that's that whole sharing because now you're bringing in your professionalism to YouTube, where people can just come with pen and paper to learn from you. And I want to know if if it became easy for you to navigate those YouTube streets, like you never thought about, oh my God, I'm going to lose subscribers, oh my God, what are people going to think? Or you just necessarily evolved and you felt like, hey, whoever evolves with me, evolves with me, and whoever doesn't, doesn't.
No, that's an excellent question. When I had stopped Where's My Tea and I knew that a lot of people loved it, even over the years, I still get requested to this day to bring back Where's My Tea. I had ended up trying to bring it back with just a different twist, and it wasn't really working. And one of the things on YouTube was like, as I was growing, like I wanted my content to reflect who I was presently, right? But I had got in my head a lot because it was just like, Nini, people are not going to view this. So then I started getting caught up in like the views and like the numbers. And when I noticed that my productivity was based on who was going to see it, that was like, hold on, Nathecia, you ain't never start this for that. And I didn't start YouTube for that. Like, I didn't start YouTube to blow up and find subscribers and do this. So I always had to go back to the basics. What are you here for? What's your purpose? And that's with any content that I put out. So yeah, I got nervous like navigating YouTube. I bought my podcast on YouTube and my views was nothing like a makeup video, was nothing like a chit chat, get ready with me. Like, my views were different. My views on YouTube is not what it used to be. And that's because I'm not putting the same energy like how I used to. Because although I love my YouTube, again, I'm very intentional in all things that I do. I don't want to invest so much energy into that. But when it comes out to what video I make, I always tell myself, what's the purpose? And is this on brand with who you are and what you want to get out there? That's if I'm coming to talk. That's if I'm doing a podcast. What is your purpose in all of this? And that's what I encourage people who are on YouTube. You know, try not to get so wrapped up in the views. Try not. Always focus on your purpose. What am I doing this for? What am I trying to do? Honestly. And that always recentered me. So yes, I thank God that I was able to navigate it. You know what I'm saying? Because I can go on YouTube now and I have my long time people, my faithful people. Oh, Nene posted. Nene could be brushing her hair. What's up, girl? How you doing? You get what I'm saying? Like, I have that already. That don't mean I'm going to get 10K views overnight, but see, I'm not looking for that. It's the quality of information that I'm putting out there. So my presentation that I did, Daisy, you'd be surprised. I'm sure not a lot of people seen that video, right? And at one point I was just going to kind of close it and take it down, but I'm like, no. Let that video sit there, because what I feel, what I believe, whoever's drawn to that video is going to change their life, you know, because that was my intention. When I put that video out there, I wasn't looking for, hopefully people can, you know, get all the views. I ain't never moved by that. My information is going to change your life. So this is why I always tell people, if I talk on my story or if I drop a video, it's up to you to listen. You're going to miss the gems if you want to, right? So it was hard navigating through it, but I always had to focus on the purpose. What's your intention and what's your purpose? And that determines whatever I do online. Everything has to serve a purpose for me. The blogging was cool, but it just wasn't for me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want you that close into my life like that. Like, we ain't there. There's some exclusivity to me, and I know that. And I try to make sure, you know. So vlogging, that's too personal. I'm not I'm not accessible like that. You get what I'm saying? But I can drop you a video. If I want to let you in on my life, I'll do a chit chat. I had to learn how to keep things private, but then also how to be intentional. So it was in the beginning, you know, just trying to figure out how to navigate it. But I always focus on the purpose, truly. And that's what has helped me on my journey.
Thank you. You actually answered my last question, but you know, I mean, obviously, we all can see that social media has changed. And what I want to ask you, because you still have people who want to join and they're like 10 years late. It's like you're 10 years late, you wanted to join 10 years ago and you never joined. And now if you want to join, it's a whole different type of game, because you're not necessarily as present on YouTube. Neither am I. I kind of like change my content these days to make it a little bit more shorter stuff. But people are not understanding that the streets of YouTube is very different. You have people who are out there to win, and by all means and necessary. So as I was doing that last discussion that I did, you know, you have people who are on YouTube the same manner that they operate in their life in the workplace. So they'll look at a particular content, a particular format that someone is doing, and I don't want to say they feel it because people get inspired, but they literally would copy the same formatting of the stuff that you're doing to do the same thing without any originality. So now it's kind of like you should have this position where it's like if you want to do something like you said, instead of announcing it, you just come up with it. Instead of saying this is what you're about to do. And also with collaboration. I mean, you have never done so. But being here on YouTube, I've seen so many like YouTubers connect, and that just like was the end of it. because it's like it just, and then you have people who are in the comment who are commenting who are saying, well, you did this, you did that. So it's a lot of pettiness, a lot of cattiness. And this is probably why I related to you so much, is because I found that you and I both navigated YouTube on the same manner in terms of like understanding that where it could take you, still keeping it a level of professionalism, being open, but yet not too open so people don't know the ins and outs and not being chatty. So, what is, to close down the YouTube, what is like an advice that you would give anyone who wants to join YouTube these days? Would you advise them to be on YouTube, yes or no? And if someone is on YouTube and they have become very discouraged, especially if someone who's doing like makeup because they feel like, oh no, like it's not working for me, they're pushing me all the way to the back. What is an advice that you would give to anyone who's looking into joining YouTube these days?
I never would talk anybody out of joining YouTube. I just never would do it. But I always ask, like, what inspired you? Like, why did you want to do it? I always start there, like, what's your why? Why do you want to get on a platform like this? But my advice has never changed, and I'm just going to repeat it. You have to be authentic. You have to make sure that whenever you start YouTube, you have to know what's going to set you apart from others. I knew for a fact there was a couple things about me that was going to set me apart. So yes, everybody is on YouTube doing makeup at the time when I would do it, right? But first of all, I'm funny. Second of all, I have a good personality. I'm an excellent storyteller. People like my voice, right? I'm relatable. So I knew certain qualities about myself that would make me different. So I always encourage people, you want to get on YouTube, cool. But what's going to make you different? You cannot get on YouTube and be inauthentic. That means you're going to hop on the trend. You're going, copy people. You're going to do stuff for views. People see right through it. And then you can't sustain it. It's not real, right? So if you're going to get on YouTube, you need to honestly know what's going to set you apart and have a vision. You know what I mean? Like, you really have to have a purpose. My nephew came to me and was like, I want to get on YouTube. Okay, what you want to do? I want to do gaming. Okay, but what makes you different than all of the other 10,000 gamers? I'm funny, okay, but I think it's about 5,000 of them that's funny too, right? But my purpose was like, you can do gaming, but what's going to make people want to come back to your gaming channel? What about you? And I tell people this all the time. You're going to have to figure out what's going to make people come back to you. When I started doing makeup, people going to come back to me because they know they can go buy this product. They can go right to CVS. They can go to Walmart, right? They know that this girl going to give simple instructions. When it come to her eyes, she using 3 colors. When it come to everybody else, they got 15 colors, 30 brushes. You get what I'm saying? I knew, I knew what was going to make people come back. So I always tell people you have to be authentic and you have to know what sets you apart. People hate hearing it, but not everybody has the personality for YouTube. And this is why their channels just don't grow. They don't have it. YouTube is a show, essentially. It's a place for entertainment. You got to keep people entertained. Not like the fighting type of stuff that you see on TV that entertains you, but essentially it's a video playing. How are you going to keep the person there? And if you coming up like, hey guys, yeah, ain't nothing going on in my life, girl, skip. You know what I mean? Like, who wants to hear that? So you really gotta, when people want to start YouTube, what makes you stand out? What makes you different? What makes you different? And nowadays, you competing. People got 5K Ultra AD quality. People are just doing extreme stuff. I'm gonna be honest with you. You can't come on YouTube and think that your phone, right, and your 420p is just gonna set you apart from people. Like, that ain't gonna work. We in 2024. People got virtual reality now, right? You gonna have to step it up. And that's just the real. That really somebody got to tell you, and I'm gonna tell you. So you gotta prepare yourself. Now, I'm not telling you go spend $5,000 in equipment. No, but know your lane and know what it's gonna take for you to thrive in that lane. So join YouTube, but you gotta be ready. And nowadays, back then, consistency was like good, but you can kind of get by. Now, YouTube gotta be your life. You gotta be on there 5 days a week. It's a job now. YouTube it's truly a job. You just don't go to job 3 days a week and think you're going to get paid. No, you putting in hours. You know what I mean? So you really got to find your purpose, find your lane. So that's what I would say for YouTube.
Thank you so very much because I did the conversation and a discussion on Tuesday on social media, and I literally spoke about that. I spoke about how these days you just cannot come on YouTube just with a phone. Like you can't do makeup just over with the phone because too many people are having that high quality text and they are tuning to that. They want to see clear, crispy. I mean, YouTube is a whole different level. And one thing I joined in late 2014, going into 2015, there are two things that I regret. In 2015, I was the only person here in Haiti who was doing YouTube. I was the only person who was talking about IT. And I made the mistake to actually, that summer, I flew to the US and I overstayed. I stayed in the US for like a year and a half or so. So that lost my subscribers. But the reality is, I didn't see the value in the things that I was doing. I didn't understand my purpose. Do you know that in 2014, someone offered me a podcast and I didn't even know what a podcast was. I didn't research. I didn't know what was a podcast. I turned it down. I turned the offer down. And this is why I tell people that, honey, if you can get a coach, if you can get a mentor, this is a plus for you because a lot of times in life we are doing things and we are not seeing the value and the trajectory of what we are doing. We are literally not seeing the trajectory because if I had known in 2016 when I joined that YouTube was going to be it and that nearly everyone in Haiti does YouTube these days, I would have stuck with it. I would have took the L because I remember around that summertime I was working in here in Haiti and I renegotiated my contract for a greater pay. This is a story for a long time because I was still in the American standard thinking that the money that I was making in Haiti wasn't enough, whereas it was actually enough for Haiti standards. But because I was still operating at my American standard, I just feel like the money wasn't enough, right? Do you see how, like, when you work in between countries, these are the things that you need to know. Like, a pay for you in another country may be the highest pay that you can get, but I was looking at it like, well, I left the U.S. and I was making like $13.5. I was an hourly pay, and when I got to Haiti, my last job, they were paying me $12, which a lot of people felt like it was like so much. But for me, I was looking at it as, no, I should be making like 25 to 30 an hour. Like I'm foreign, I'm American. That's how much they should be paying me. They're not paying me enough. And I literally, the people were like, they were not nasty, but they said, even the whole establishment, the director said, I'm not even getting paid that much. Like, we can't afford to pay you that much. But I didn't have the notion, I didn't have the knowledge to understand those in between countries that the pay that you're making in the US is not going to be the pay that you're making in a country like Haiti. It's just not. So it's really important for people to understand these things, especially when they're coming on YouTube. But what I am very appreciative with my journey is that I have always been honest. So even though sometimes I am at hiatus, like people don't see me, the minute that I come back, my subscribers come back with me. It's that platform, that steadiness, that kind of like what you have brought to the platform. People can trust you and everything that you have said is been true. And I've always been honest and tell people that I'm not a YouTuber. I use YouTube as a platform to diffuse, my knowledge and things, but I'm not a YouTuber. YouTube is not really what I do. So people understand that, they respect that. And whenever I'm back online, even if the numbers are not there, but that loyalty, the people who follow you, they are here with you. And it's so important because people who are joining now, it's like you not only have to build, because listen, 2 years ago, I was filming YouTube. Sometimes the electricity gets shut down on me, but people don't care. They just want to hear what I have to say. They just want to be like, oh my God, is she going to come? Is she going to say something? What is Daisy saying? You know what I mean? So this also now teaches me about kind of like my importance in my community, how people see me, the trust people that I have built in, not to break that trust from, people that are following you, people that are cheering you, people that are waiting for you to say something about a particular situation. Just to always have the right thing to say to them, not to lie to them, not to, just give them any garbage, but to just make sure that the information is always there. So I thank you for that, and I really hope that people are going to take on those tips that you've shared, so now they can hear it from a professional, someone who's grown on YouTube. That yes, you can join, but these days you got to bring in the big guns. With that being said, Mimi, you are a licensed, certified social worker clinical. I want to know if your lane of work has been because of your upbringing. Like, why did you choose that lane of work?
Yeah, I'm a social worker. It was definitely inspired by my upbringing. I didn't know it though. It took for my mother to encourage. When I got my first degree in undergraduate, I went for criminal justice. I thought I had this idea I was going to be a crime scene detective. Yeah, I wanted to be a police officer. I never said that. Yeah, I had this idea. I'm like, because I wanted to help people. So I thought, like, just be a police officer, solve crimes, help the families, that type of thing. I graduated with that degree, and first of all, I regret getting a degree because I always tell people, don't spend all your money for a field like criminal justice. You don't need it, right? You go get it in business or something like that, right? So anywho, I graduated with the degree, and I came home and I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I don't want to be no cop. Literally. I was like, I don't want to be no cop. And my mother, I thank God for her. She was like, okay, well, what do you want to do? And I was so scared to tell her that because I thought she was going to be like, no, you went to school all these years at XYZ. And she came back to the room and she said, you know what you should do? And I said, what? She said, you should look into social work. And I said, no, absolutely not. And she said, look into social work. The reason why I didn't want to look into social work was because it was too touching of my trauma. I'm like, no, I look into social work. That means I'll be working in a foster care system. That's where all my trauma started. I don't want to touch it. But anybody who knows me, my first answer is always no. I'm always going to say no to something, but I have to learn, like, no, think about it. So I prayed on it, and I just kept seeing all these signs of social work coming up. So I'm like, sure. Anywho, I go, I research it. I find out that social work is actually the field that I wanted to be in. I remember it was the first day of my graduate class. I went to a predominantly white university for my master's degree. And the first day of my intro to social work class, after they explained the purpose of social work, I was like, this is where I need to be. Literally, it fell upon me like, this is it. And I guess I didn't see it. I was pursuing the social work degree because in my head I was like, I'll go and I'll be a therapist and I'll go from there, right? But you said something, sometimes we do things blindly and we don't see the effect or the reason why we're doing it. And that was me early, very early in my career. I'm like, okay, I don't know where this going to lead me to. I don't know for what. But when I finally got my most recent license, my clinical social work license, I was at church and I was crying so bad because I was just so thankful. And this girl comes to my ear and she said, that license was for you. And she said, think about it. She said, you got that license to prove something to you. And I was like, hold on. And as I thought about it, getting that social work license was because I wanted to be what I missed out on as a social worker. A lot of my social workers dropped the ball with me, especially when I was young, a kid. And I knew all of what it took to be an effective social worker, to work with people just dealing with trauma. I had all the skills, but I had the heart for it. I had the passion for it. And a lot of the social workers I had, they just saw social work as a money grab, right? And I tell anybody, if you want to enter into this field, you have to have the passion for it, especially if you're working with, children, juveniles, if you have to have the passion for it. So going into the social work God does all things well. Your life will come back full circle. In this field, I faced my trauma many a times, which was needed for me. I done worked with foster kids. Those have been my best children on my case. I have worked with social workers. I've worked directly in the foster care system. I've had to testify in judges advocating on behalf of foster children and their foster parents. I've had to sit with foster parents and tell them, like, you ain't connecting with this kid. You know, I've had to do all of these things, but see, I was the only person that could really do that, right? And I've created such great change because, you know, you sometimes the best person for the job is the person who's done it before, who's been through it before, you know, who has some background in it. So my my career was definitely inspired by my past because I just know what it takes to help people feel seen, you know, to love people, to pour into people, but to recognize people in their trauma. I see it, you know, I see it, and I know how to navigate it, you know, in such a way that is so calming and relieving for people. So I am so thankful that my mother was like, you should explore social work. I'm so thankful.
Wow, this conversation is just it's blowing me away. I mean, when I tell you that you made my weekend, I've been excited since yesterday. You made my weekend. Mimi, I was in shock. I didn't know that you was a CJ major girl. So am I. I literally went to school for criminal justice, and this is where I have my degree. I had an associate degree from criminal justice. I've always wanted to be in law. I've always wanted to be in politics as well. But you know, it's a long story short. My mother discouraged me. They just didn't want the field for me because they always knew that you know I was too outspoken. But for myself, you know, given the fact that I've always been like knowing that I was going to come back home to IT, right? So hearing you say that you were a CJ major, it's like, whoa, I didn't know that. I literally thought that you went like undergrad and grad, you did, you know, kind of like therapy, psychology. I remember when you had your license and you did feel you did feel, and it was such an accomplishment. And it doesn't all, it doesn't matter even if someone gets a certification, if it is something that you're doing for you, it's kind of like that rewarding, you know, you feel so rewarded. And you know, to hear you talk about how you didn't want to fail the people that you were going to work with. Because one thing that I've experienced with the USA is that I'm sorry if I'm going to offend my American people, but I've experienced this a lot. Even with IET, you hear people, even when you have career advisors, they teach you to go in career based on the money. They teach you to go and have more studies to get more money. It's not a matter of, okay, you finished with the undergrad, well, you know, get that license, get that master's degree because you just kind of like, it's going to be a little bit more depth into, you're going to bring more to the table. No, no, no. They teach you, well, you know, actually the numbers are going to be more because the last work that I did prior to becoming I work a lot more kind of like consulting the last years in the US. The last work I worked a lot with the um, organization, nonprofit organizations in schools, and I didn't like it. I hated it. I hated it. This is when I knew that you're gonna have to strap your boots and do your own thing because you know I was in my early 30s and I was going from job to job and I just hated it. And one of the reasons that I hated it is because people were in for the money. They were not in for the kids. They could care less about these kids. Listen, they could care less. And you had people who could not even relate to these kids. A lot of them were immigrants, living in an immigrant, you know, neighborhood. And you had all. And one thing that I've experienced with Massachusetts, Boston, predominantly, is that all of the head directors of nonprofit organizations are white people. They are all white people. All the directors, all the board members, they're all white people. But what they'll do is they will hire, you know, black people for a position like supervisors, you know, manager, you know, this and that. But at the top, they are all white people. And this is when I understood that I was such a threat with the youth agency because they were looking at it like, what? You're running a whole organization, girl, you black, and you hate Trump? Oh no, we can't have this. But one thing that I never figured out, which I have to figure out, is that they keep so many of their resources to themselves. They are not really open to sharing those resources out there because they know that once you have those resources and you can actually relate to the community that you serve in, it's a lot. Like you blowing up because not only that, you are part of those communities that you want to serve. You're acquiring the knowledge, you're on the field, and now you know the back end of nonprofit, how to get those grants, how to get you can tap into that. That's a done deal for you. So it has always been, but thankfully, I can really connect with people, and I've always had people come to me and support me into something that I'm doing. But Massachusetts is just not open for these things, and that's one thing that I've realized that they would always kind of like it's always about the money, and this is why. And the questions that I sent to you, I said to you, did you feel that? Well, probably I'm looking forward to your answer, but now I'm thinking that it's just not. But my answer to you, because you had made a live and you were talking about that the other job that you had in terms of like all aspects, like the money, and I think you mentioned how that certification and more certification, what it can earn you. So my question to you would be, how did you find that last work, that last place of employment? How did you find it in terms of the pay range? Were you satisfied with it? Did you feel that the work overload? Because one of the reasons that I never went into social work is because I just felt like it was too overwhelming for me. I just felt like first it touched home a lot with a lot of the issues that I faced, and I just felt like because my teachers that I had at the time, who was a very very old woman, she was almost like 80 something years old, but she always counseled that she literally, I remember, she literally said that you need your a therapy when you go into that field. Like she advised us to get therapists because she just felt like the overload, the work. She talked about sometimes, clients who relapse, in addiction, like feeling like you pour so much and then, to have a client who just goes backward. To talk about all that. And she also talked about the pay. I felt like it was a field where you literally would need to have like above a PhD to make a decent income. So my question to you with that is, how did you find the pay range in your field?
It's all too common when people get into the social work field. It's the money motivating factor, right? They feel like as a social worker you're going to make so much money. When I decided to get into the field, I wanted to see how much money I could make, but that was not a thriving factor or like a determining factor for me. But I'll say it straight. Working in the field of social work, you're always going to feel like you're not paid enough. You got to understand that you are dealing with humans, and their issues and their problems. And as a social worker, we wear many hats, right? So I'm going to manage your case. I'm going to give you resources. I got to therapize you, right? I got to help you in a crisis. I got to work with your family. It's so much that you do as a social worker, right? Where you gonna feel like I don't get paid enough for this, right? I always tell people if you work in the human service field, it's never really a dollar you could put on it to make you feel like I'm getting paid enough. My last agency, I was working for an outpatient mental health clinic, right? So at outpatient mental health clinics, typically you get your referrals in from hospitals, schools. Your referrals are constantly always coming in. The issue for outpatient mental health clinic is that it's fee for service, meaning I only get paid based on who I see. So I can schedule 10 people in that day, but if 6 of them show up, I'm only getting paid for 6 people. I'm not getting paid for the 4 that didn't show up, right? But then you're working with insurance companies. And this is the other side. This is the political side that I just don't like when it comes to mental health, right? And I'll just throw a rate out there. Let's just say me, I done did all these years of schooling. I got a certification. I got a license, XYZ. I see a person for 45, 50 minutes, okay? And I get paid only $58. for 45 and 50 minutes, right? Because when you work with insurance, especially those who have Medicaid, right? You ain't getting paid nothing, right? Because it's Medicaid, right? But the insurance is going to take the highest part of this. Like, they getting their payout and then the money trickles down. So the insurance get paid first, the agency gets paid next, right? And typically my agency, the overhead was a white man who had so many people working under him. Great idea. You know what I mean? Great. But you getting paid. And here I am, dealing with real problems. And I got to use my skill set to create change. I'm forming different minds. I'm building esteems. I'm fixing people. And I'm getting paid $58. That's just not going to work. You understand what I'm saying? Now, the other side to that is that being a social worker, you can make as much money as you want to make. I know a lot of different social workers that got like 10 jobs, okay? They got like 10 jobs, right? And or they found a lane where they're making the money that they want to make. But a lot of times you see the social work move from what I do, which is direct therapy, because you're just not going to get paid like that. And they're doing their own services, like they're going to package something up for you. They're opening up their own business. They're doing consulting. They're working in the hospitals. Like, they're traveling. They're doing so much just to, get that dollar to come in. So it was time for me to make a career change, only because I do believe that God says your gifts will make room for you, right? So I can't just work a job and give my all to this job, but I'm not receiving anything on the back end from that. Like that just was not going to cut it for me. So, and I'm still pretty early in my career and I'm still pretty young. I know for a fact as I progress, oh, this social work degree, girl, I'm going to be straight. I know that, right? But it in this field, you're always going to feel like you're not paid enough. You're just always going to feel like that way. But it takes passion, because your passion will drive you to your paycheck. Hear me out. That's with anything. Your passion is going to drive you to your paycheck. So because I do direct therapy, I remember some of my colleagues was telling me, take on more clients. How? I got 25 and I'm drained, and you sitting over here with 50? Ain't no way. That's ineffective care and counseling for me. There's just no way that you can therapize 50 people in a week. No way. But see, some people do it because I can make these dollars. So if I get to talk to you, yeah, girl, that's crazy. What? Okay. Just kind of de-stress about it. Don't worry about it. Next client. Yeah, girl. See, I don't do no work like that. You gonna sit in my chair and let's talk about it. You get what I'm saying? And we gotta do deep work. I can't. So in this field, you have people to say, "Girl, make the money work for you. Take on all these clients." But then that's why you have therapy, and people are only seen once every 3 months because these therapists is booked, right? These therapists got so many clients that they can't effectively help you by seeing you every week or every other week. So it goes down. It can spiral out, but the field can make you money, but you really have to move with passion in this field. And a lot of people are in this field and they lack the passion. They just trying to make the money.
Wow, thank you so much. That was a very elaborate answer. You touched on many, many aspects, and hopefully, someone who wants to get into that field is going to be very inspired to hear you out. Which is, I'm not surprised to hear what you have to say because, it's very common in those fields. That's what you hear, and I love the fact that you said you're never going to really feel like you get paid enough because of the amount of work that you put out. I agree with that. Now, I don't know. I know that I was very, I usually watch your stories, so I know that you did say that you were going to be on there to talk about your new job. So I don't know if you wanted to open up a little bit about the new job here and tell us what you do, no? Oh, okay.
I am going to talk about it. You know me by now. I'm very intentional in all things that I do. So this new transition, I want to make sure I can dedicate the time to it, right? But then also the headspace, because it is a transition for me. It's going to be something completely new, but it's my next level. So I'll be on tomorrow talking about it, right? And y'all get to know from there. But I'm excited. I'm nervous, but I'm excited. But it really is next level for me.
Wow, I look forward to hearing all about it. Let us know what time you're going to be on to take, to talk about that so that I can, be sure that I'm here to listen to that because I'm really intrigued to see, the next move, the next job. And I love that. That's one thing that I love with you. And I try to do it like naturally, easily. I have short attention. So a lot of people may feel like I do various things, but it's just because I get bored easily. I can't, just do one thing forever. But I love the fact that you don't get stuck. You move on, you grow, you understand that, okay, this is done. I've done my part. And because people can feel really attached with social work. You could have felt really attached to your clients. In the last stories that you put out, you said how people felt like they were not ready to let you go, those are fields, even with myself as far as like teaching. Sometimes you may just not want to leave your teaching experience, not because of the pay, but because of your students, because of the connection that you have built with the students, because of what you feel like the students need. But at the end of the day, we always have to think about ourselves first. And, if the passion is not here or we outgrow that type of environment, it's time to move on. So, thank you so much, Nini. Now, we are going to touch maybe a very touchy subject. I want to prepare people who are going to watch it because, people have very sensitivity these days. But, I really wanted to hear your perspective and your opinion based on the toward the LGBTQ plus community. I live in Haiti, and this is a community that is literally being shoved in our throats here in this country. I see in the past has have very very strict. It's not a country. Listen, we have so many problems. So sexuality is at the back end. We have a lot of social problem, political problem. I mean, we could go on and on with IT and its issues. So recently, and it's been there since 2015. I've been following it, and where there's this surge of making people, I don't even want to say open to their sexuality, but there is like a surge where you have a lot of like organizations that are more foreign and they are pushing an LGBTQ plus agenda here in the country. And I hear a lot of my counterpart African people talk about that and taking a stance of saying, no, we don't want this here, we don't want this behavior. And for people who know me, for really people who know me, especially my American people, they probably could feel a little taken that I'm taking that stance as, don't do it here in the country. But I take it as more of a political base because as I've shared with you, I just feel like it's really not about sexuality. It's not about encouraging people to be open with their sexuality. It's just not about that. I just feel like it's more so very politicized about the United Nations agenda. It's about their, objective. Because I mean, one thing that I try to tell people is like, let's be really honest. Weren't these the same people who were saying that homosexual people or the people who brought AIDS and HIV, weren't them the same people who were pushing that agenda, what, 45 years ago? So now, today, the agenda automatically, the agenda that they are putting out is that, oh, everybody should be gay. And it's a very touchy subject because I can't even bring certain people that are in the educational field to talk about that out of fear of losing their jobs, right? I see it in school. I see it a lot in the United States, and it's frightening. A lot of my peers have taken their kids from school because they don't agree with it. They feel like, no, like you literally are shoving down my children's throats a particular behavior that they're not okay. Like you learn your sexuality throughout life. I mean, we've all been there. We learn our sexuality, meaning that, you try to figure it out just like that. You try to figure out who you love. A lot of time you find it's okay. You do have people, especially in a country like Haiti, maybe you have people who always have that urge to be bisexual or who are always gay, but they are afraid. That's very different from literally teaching people that it's okay to be gay. It's okay to, it's just, it's so confusing for to talk about, because sometimes you don't want to say the wrong word. You don't want people to really be offended, because these days people are losing their mindset. It's like it's not really about being gay. It's really about the agenda behind what these people are doing. So I am not going to really say who you are. You are free, and let me know your, and I'm not going to say why. I want you to talk about, if you're comfortable, your dating experience, and let us know how you feel about that. And like, does that make you feel like you are a part of that community? Do you associate with that community? How do you see it in the US? Like, how do you see it? Let me go ahead by that.
So I live in Maryland, right, from DC. I like to say that DC is like a very prideful city, right? We associate Atlanta with, the LGBTQIA plus community, but DC is like really home of that as well, right? This is the nation's capital, right? Um, so I make this clear, right? I love all people. I don't judge anybody for who they are, who they feel that they are. I'm just not going to do it, right? But I do believe that when it comes to the LGBTQIA plus campaign, it's really politicized, because it's marketable and it's influential, and I think that the way that it's been pushed in people's face, it's just an agenda, one that I don't know. When I look at the medical system, I look at the new medicines and the new technology, that has changed, for people to fully embrace who they are, right? But then in addition to not only changing your biological aspects, now you're able to change and identify your pronouns and your names and stuff. To me, that's like, what is this, right? Because at one point, like you said, people were shunned, and they should never be shunned for being who they are. I never agree with that. But then now it's like, oh, well, you got free will to be whatever. How did that change, right? How is that not an issue now, right? Where I can literally say I identify as a pillow, and that's okay. I can literally say, that, you know, I look like a woman, but I'm not. And I need you to believe that I'm not. What is going on here? That's a lot, and as a therapist, I deal with people, who talk about how these cultural or societal norms is affecting them, right? When it comes to the LGBTQIA community. So it is, again, I love all people. I'm not going to judge you for who you are, who you like. Who am I to do that, right? But I do believe that there is a higher agenda on why it's being marketed and why it's being influenced, especially on our children, right? When you just look at human development, sexuality doesn't show up as early as they push it on these kids. And that's just human development, right? Like, you don't see it so early. Why are you trying to tell a kid that's 6, if you like boys, that's okay? Wait a minute. Let the little boy figure it out. Why are you encouraging him to come out? His brain is not even developed yet to fully think about what this means. And come on now, we all know that, right? But we have to normalize. So that's the part that I just won't shut up about, right? And I'm not this martyr, that's the word I think, for like LGBTQI. Like, I'm not the spokesperson for that, right? But I'm just saying, it's too soon, right? Allow kids to determine what that is later. But I think that sexuality is now, you can use it as a weapon. Just think about it. The moment that somebody says anything about it's like, ooh, you bad. Oh, shut up, can't say nothing. What is this about, right? And that, if you are just smart, you have to understand, nah, it's a reason behind that, right? And you just have to just know that. Don't be fooled. Just do not be fooled. So I love all people, right? I ain't judging you. If you want to do what you want to do, go do it. But I do believe that It's just being used as a tool. You know, like, I understand that people want to be included, and we can include them. But does that mean that now we have to change pronouns? Now we have to create new medicines? Does that mean that we have to now change titles and we have to create bathrooms just to make people feel included? No, just tell people we accept them and go on about their merry little lives. Do you understand? So that's just kind of how I feel. Now, to touch as far as like my own journey, right? So those who are viewing, my subscribers, know that I dated a woman. I dated a woman for 5 years. That was my longest relationship in life, right? 5 years. And I was very much so in love with that woman. But even when I first started to date that woman, I questioned myself because I never seen myself with a woman romantically. I was attracted to women like, oh, she's beautiful, great, but not in a romantic level. Like, okay, let's date. Nah, that was never me. This particular woman, I just had some romantic feelings for, right? And I decided to pursue it. But even still, it was a big adjustment because I knew that I wanted to have children. But I always saw myself having children the natural way, right? Now I got to adjust a little bit about how I'm going to do this, right? I always just seen my life marrying a man. Now I got to adjust a little bit, you know, just the way that we connected was different. So I got to adjust. It was just so much adjustments that I finally had to realize, what are you doing? Literally. And that was a lot, you know, in addition to, I wasn't really even happy here, right? But it was just the self thing that I had to, what are you doing? You know, and although I don't judge anybody, it was more so like, is this you? And it really took me some time to really realize, this isn't me. I was just looking for love. And I gravitated to whatever was loving me. And that's when it was just like, okay, you got some work to do. So, I never identify within the community. I never just been a fan of labels, you know, only because sexuality is fluid. And what I have learned is, you may say that, okay, I like girls, and 3 years later, you're like, no, I don't do that. It does changes, you know, and we have to just accept that. And when I entered into the community, that community is completely diverse. You'll have people that say, I'm attracted to women, but I like physical intimacy with this. I like this. It's just all over the place. So I always encourage people, don't try to just adopt a label just so that people can understand you. So when people will come to me and say, Nina, you bisexual? Well, if you want to understand me, then you will call me that, but you will never hear me say, I'm bisexual. You would never hear me say that because I don't relate to it, right? That's not who I am. I've dated one woman. Would I ever date a woman again? No. So does that mean I'm bisexual? But I don't have time to explain that to anybody. I don't, you know what I'm saying? And I don't have to. So that was just my experience. And as quiet as it's kept, I'll be the loudest one to say it. Both men and both women go through periods where they question who they are and what they like. Some act on them, some don't. But some act on them, you know, and I think that that's important. We have to normalize that. And a lot of times, you know, people think that, oh no, there's some people that's like, no, I ain't never liked girls. Great. But there's some people who's kind of tailored the fence. You don't think that happened to men where they like, do I? Do you get what I'm saying? It's a part of human development. And this is why I say, and the way that social media, but then just the digital creating is sexualizing everything and nowadays, you probably got more men willing to say, let me see what that's about. And more women because of what's being pushed. So don't be fooled, okay? Don't be fooled because everything is now sexualized because sexuality is fluid and sex sells. It's forever gonna sell.
I mean, I really don't know what to say. I don't know. I love all the explanation that you gave, and I really wanted. Sometimes you talk about stuff, and you just feel like people are not really getting it. You just feel like people are, they may feel a particular way about it. But I just love that I brought you in because now for people who are in my community, they can look at it and understand it from a from someone who lives in the United States, where it's like that's the biggest market. And one of the words that you use that I fail to use when I talk about LGBTQ community is campaign. That's a very important word because we're not talking about individuals. We're not talking about how individuals are feeling about their sexuality. We're talking about the campaign. We're talking about the agenda behind the campaign. Because for me, what I want people to really be understanding when I talk about it is like, I'm not talking about you if you're gay, honey. I'm not talking about you if that's what you identify with. I'm talking about the agenda, the campaign, that aggressivity. Even people who are gay, I feel like should stand up and be like, no, because now what you're really gonna have, and I had 2 or 3 videos on my channel about that. As you say, you have people who just, for me in Haiti, what I found is that people who just decide to be gay for the convenience of it. People who decide that they are, I mean, TikTok is full of them. I mean, I'm telling you, it's everywhere. Why? It's popular. You're going to get the views. You're going to get the money. You're going to get, people are attracted to that. So you literally have men, in my opinion, from my community who pose as gay. They are not gay. Honey, they get the views. They come on live and they get like 20,000 people. They start to act up. They get people to get their wigs on. They look good. And honey, the money behind the TikTok, the Cash App, the get, people are not understanding that. Sometimes it's a whole theater. It's a whole, like, you know, like, it's not that. What people may not know, especially people who are following me here, you know, who know that since a very young years when I used to vacation in the US, I used to go into trend stuff. I always went to New York and watched drag queen shows. I'm at all. If nobody has ever watched a drag queen show, you should, because it's lavish. If you love things that are lavish, if you love things that are out there, drag is like, it's the makeup, the artistry, the everything. It's everything. Like the parade, it's everything. It's something that everybody should experience. But now it's not even about that. They have a whole political agenda behind it. And it's like, I always feel like even people who are gays, they should talk about it, because now what you're gonna have people who tell you that they are gay, but honey, they are not gays. I've seen it happen so many times in Haiti. People get played out because a lot of the women, they're like, I remember a woman that I knew, she literally had a whole girlfriend, had her daughter calling, her daughter who has a grown father calling that girl dad. And when I asked her, like, where did that shame come from? She said, honey, these girls will take care of me better than these guys in Haiti. So I don't mind it. Okay. I mean, listen, I don't care about it. And what these girls are not understanding is that, or that community is that a lot of time you get got, because these are not people who are, you know, into it. They're into it because now they even understanding that they can get married, so they can have access to the citizenship, your green card and your everything. So for me, I'm just trying my hardest, you know, when I talk about that, because, you know, I just feel like you need to have a voice. You know, you need to make sure that people understand the behind the scenes, the political agenda. I always go back to 30, 40 years ago, how people were not even shunned, people were killed, people were murdered. It's just with the same thing with spirituality. You remember how people were burned out because they were called witches. You know, people were literally like burned because they thought that they were witches. But now you got everybody on YouTube doing tarot reading, and it's like, oh my God, like, who do you believe? Everybody is a spiritual advisor, is doing spiritual card. It's like, it's whatever is selling in the moment. That's how you have to differentiate. Like, it's whoever is going with the flow, like, okay, this is what's popping, this is where the money is. Even with Haiti, like, oh my God, I gotta wrap this up because we're gonna be here forever. I'm telling you. You don't know how alienated my work is, because every time they try to reach out and they got one of these BS, I'm like, please stop. I'm not doing that. I'm not a part of that. Haiti has enough problem. Give me money for something else. Give me money for something else that I'm doing. But don't say that. But literally, it's like, this is where the funding is. We're changing. This is where the funding, the money is. Honey, we're going to have to change. We're going to have to change the strategy, because this is where the money is. So I really, really want to thank you for shedding that light, because I just really want people to have a different perspective from someone who is living in the US, for someone who's dated a woman, but who clearly can see that, you know what, is the campaign behind it. So, Nene, this was, I mean, we could be here forever. This was rich. This was phenomenal. I mean, I don't even feel like I'm having a conversation with you, with other people watching. I just feel like we took the DMs and we just brought it live, and I could do this forever. I don't even know what to say, but to close off, I want to know what's next with Nini Tanae as far as like your YouTube channel. What's next with that? I know that tomorrow we're gonna get to see what's next with the career. But what's, because it's gonna be a new, what's next for Nini, like in terms of like professionalism, and also Nini, how do you feel that I'm all the way over here in Haiti and I'm watching your work? And I know that we talked, we're not going to have the time maybe to talk about that. But one of the things that we talked about, as I was telling you about my coaching and my mentorship program, is that I told you that I don't really like to counsel people on mentally, because I first feel like it's just too deep. And I felt like maybe I didn't have all the credential necessary. But I also felt like it just came with the work. Like you can't escape talking career, and you got people who are, especially with what's going on in Haiti, with the afflux of Haitians who have traveled to the United States. I mean, this is a whole other thing that we could sit there and talk about demographic change, talk about psychological effect, from people who probably were in, homes and neighborhood with gunshots and with everything. So I just want to close down first. How did you think the live went? Let us know, and what's next for you. And how do you feel about someone from Haiti watching your work and that whole community cultural effect?
I don't know what happened. I'm so sorry. Can you hear me? You can hear me? Okay, thank you. I don't know what happened. But first, I am so honored. This went amazing. Let me tell you something, Daisy. This was such a feeling like surface. Uh-oh. Sorry. There you can see me. I don't like surface level conversations. I do not like surface level conversations. And this just wasn't that, like Haiti, Daisy, when you speak, you can just tell that you are full of so much knowledge, and you have so much insight and wisdom to give as well. So I want to say thank you. Just us speaking in the DMs does not even shine a light on who you are speaking like this. So honestly, I encourage you to continue to create this platform, because the way that you're able to navigate, the way that you're able to propose your questions, give feedback, give insight. No, this is a lane for you, so I am honored to be your first guest. But like I told you, don't let me be the last guest. Like, this is clearly meant for you, because you do such a great job navigating the conversation, doing your research, and then talking about things, that you're passionate about, and I just love the platform. So this means a lot. I didn't see us doing this, right? I remember you asking about it. And one thing I am is honest. And I remember telling you, like, just give me a minute, Daisy. Like, I got other things going on, right? Like, and I did at the time. But when you finally was like, Nini, I really want to do it, I'm like, let's do it. I told you I would do it. I'm free now. And I'm so happy that we was able to get here. So thank you so much. Honestly, like I tell you all the time, but yeah, I'll just tell you something about her. She has always poured into me, no matter what I have been going through. And one thing I like about Daisy is that she has a profound spiritual gift. I don't necessarily know how to name it, but you see deeper than what something is. You really do. And every time, I mean, she has always slid in my DM and has given me an explanation for something, or have even given me guidance or insight, or like, explore this. And for a complete stranger, my girl, I mean, it just shows just your authenticity. It just shows how genuine you are. So I hope that I am pouring back into you all of what you have poured into me, because I know you like this a fangirl moment, but I tell you all the time, and I get to tell you now, you know, in front of your audience and mine, I'm so thankful for you. You know, I'm so appreciative of you. I'm so thankful for this conversation, okay? Daisy said, listen, I want it to be personal. I want to talk about you, and I don't really do too much of that, but I'm like, sure, why not? Like, let's get into it. But you were so respectful, you know, and you just came with all of your knowledge, you know, watching me and Dad on Macy's, girl, that was forever ago. So I just want to say thank you. I love the conversation. Now, as far as what's next for me, I cannot tell you exactly where I'm going, right? What I do know, and what my prayer has always been, was, God, align my plans with your plans, okay? So as far for me, I just know that I want to impact my community. You know, excuse me, I want to impact my community in such a positive way that creates healing, that creates change, but it promotes togetherness, right? So whichever way that God leads me to do that, it will happen. I know that I'm a change maker. I know that I'm a cycle breaker. You know, Nathecia Brooks may be somewhere influencing politics, and I see it, you know, making changes in this world. I see that. And I have to be careful of what I say, because I am a strong manifester, meaning the things that I say, they really do come into fruition. And sometimes I'll be like, well, dang, like, I ain't really. So, that's something that I see, but it's much bigger than me, you know, but God will always get the glory. So, you know, I just pray that my people who support me just continue to support me, because ain't nothing like, I'm so thankful for the platform that I created on YouTube, but the community I created, because I didn't feel the love, you know, just a girl, just had to grow up on life, just trying to figure it out. But my supporters, my boos, man, like, when I tell you y'all love me, and it's sometimes it's overwhelming, you know, just complete strangers. You are all the way in Haiti, and I'm sitting here in Maryland, right? So it is a blessing, but it is a divine connection. So I'm excited, and I'm excited to show what happens next. But I always tell God, please show people the favor over my life, because if I can do it, you can do it. But let me show you what it takes to do it. You can't give up on yourself. You have to get focused. The things that your friends acting like, if you do it, you know, you're going to be the boring one. To hell with them. You do it. You stick to, you know, what is right. You do what is right, you know. And I try to make sure I instill that into people, because that's the only way you're going to create change. Sometimes you got to pull yourself out of environments. Sometimes you got to get yourself out of your head. Sometimes you cannot be the victim to your circumstances. You got to know, like, what I want, I can get. And I try to show that via what I show online. Yeah, I may be crying one week, but your girl gonna get herself together, and we gonna keep it moving, because that's just life, right? So I'm excited for what God has in store for me next. But I thank you so much. This conversation was I'm on a high. All of my people are in here, so I can't wait, you know, to watch the playback, and for them to call me and be like, girl, I can't wait, Daisy, because this was excellent.
Thank you so much. I knew it. The minute that you agreed to do the conversation, the back and forth, we chatted a little bit, because, you know, I know you, but you didn't really know me. You didn't know the work that I do. You didn't, I mean, you're not really following me like that, but I knew you. So the back end was for me to establish that trust, to make sure that you felt comfortable, to make sure that you could feel safe enough to come to my platform and to pour. And you will always have that love back, because you pour every way, even with your story time, the engagement. It's like we live for it. You are confident. You are a beautiful chocolate girl. I want to see you in politics. Nini, I want to see you in politics. The world needs it. You are next to DC, girl. I want to see you there, because you have a voice. The world needs it. Like everybody always say, why are you still in Haiti? Because Haiti needs me. Trust me, I could not be here. Trust me about that. But leaders, when I think about other leaders who died, and it's like that next generation, you gotta fill in those shoes. You gotta step in. You just gotta do your part. Not everybody could do it, but it does take for people like yourself and for people like myself to step in. Otherwise, you're gonna sit back and you're going to watch everybody do all this madness, and you're going to be talking behind their back. But what is the necessary step that you are taking to make those changes? Do you have those resources? Do you have that capability? And I can see you. And politics is vast. It doesn't have to be anything. I mean, right here, listen, I say community empowerment. That's what you're doing. You empower you don't even empower only your community, which would be considered people around you, foreign people. You never know who watch you. You never know the ears that are paying attention to you. You never know. This is why when we talk, when we have, I never only cast my public on Haiti because I don't know who watched. I got clients all the way in Africa, Europe. I got people who left all the way from Finland to come visit Haiti based on a video that they watched that I put out. This is when I understood that, damn, like this, you don't know what you're literally setting up. You setting up people to come visit Haiti, and you gotta be, people are paying attention. People are actually coming down, so it's very important. I want to see you in politics. I'm just letting you know. I really want to see you in politics. I mean, the United States need it. And quite frankly, I could see you with I could see you with Donald Trump. I could see you with that team. I could see you with that administration. I mean, this is a discussion for another day. He has become my guy. Hopefully, everybody's gonna vote Trump. I'm just saying. I mean, because this is a whole can for another word. But I do think people who are American need to understand the foreign relation, the foreign diplomacy, those foreign affairs. It's like they need to. American people, they need to know these things in order to vote wisely. Because, honey, people are not I don't think that American people understand the impact of their election. The impact of their election. Your election, it's a ripple effect to those of us who are in the Caribbean as well as Latin America, because of the United States is so empowering. So whoever that you guys are electing, they're going to have an impact on countries like Haiti. I mean, girl, we gotta go on. If I open this up, we're gonna be here forever. But I just want people to know it. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Thank you. Okay, you can hear me now, right? Yeah. I'm not a really big political fan. I'm not really into politics. So even when it comes down to presidential elections and, voting for certain people, that's just not my lane, only because I see the bigger picture. There are people more powerful than us that make shots and call decisions, right? So I don't touch that, right? Because there's no space for me there. And I feel like there's no, honestly, that's just, look. Well, you gotta understand, there's just no space for me there. I don't touch politics in that way. And that's just my opinion. I kind of just see this bigger than what it really is or what it's really portrayed to be. So, yeah, I don't know what my role would be in politics at some point. I do believe God has planted that it will be on the side of creating change, whether it's influencing legislation or, influencing policies or creating it will be there some way. And I'm speaking that because I know it, right? But in what way? I have no idea. But God is good, and I will allow God to continue to lead me in that way.
Thank you so much, Lou. But the reality is that I can see you in politics and I can see you actually your voice. You have a voice. And yeah, but policy making is important. Policy making is everything. Being a judge is everything because it's decision making. Policy making, I remember saying to my younger sister years and years ago, she had finished and done, and she kept going from job to job because she was not satisfied. And I said to her, if you really want to make a difference, since you have more of that discipline to continue with your schooling, I said, if you want to make a difference, you have to go on top. You got to be able to go on top and make it fit at those tables with policy. A lawyer that I knew years ago, God bless. That's why I said I had so many older friends. A lawyer that I knew years and years ago, he told me that. He's the one who told me. He used to say, but he didn't understand Haiti. He used to say, you don't have to talk. You should write. This was back then when Haiti was hit with the 2010 earthquake and all the money was gone. And he was like, you should write about it. You should talk about it. So look at this. I told you to wrap up that I've always wanted to do politics. I've always wanted to study politics, but I was very discouraged. But with YouTube, it literally led me into a different, completely. I don't want to say it landed me into a different path, but it landed me into my career. Like when I look at my trajectory, I'm not someone who went to school for politics. I'm not, but just with the YouTube, the videos, the way that I'm talking is connecting me. How if people knew who I knew, they would be shocked. So you never know in life. Never say that you don't have a space page. Of course you have a space. The same people that are in there were you're more than them. They didn't have a platform. They didn't have people who follow them. So I understand that you could feel like, hey, it's not for me. But living in a country like Haiti and having to endure what foreign policies do to countries like that, I say yes, you do. Yes, whenever, like you said, you're not going to press it and push it, but whenever, God is going to lend you because you walk in purpose. So I'm not really afraid. And I could feel, this is just the first. Listen, girl, I could feel continuously working. I could see me inviting you in Haiti and being here. People need people like me. I could see me working with you in the near days. Like, so you just never know. I was honored. I don't even know what to say. I'm looking at the comments and people are saying how they feel like it was everything. It was refreshing. They're saying all these. I just knew it. I'm not surprised. And I can't wait as you to put that conversation on my YouTube page to just bring you in and to have people here because like I said, people like yourself are people who shine brightly without the spotlight. And you deserve more visibility. You deserve to know the impact that your work has made, the ripple effect, and that all that you do, your interaction online, like it's being seen, like you are recognizing. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. The beautiful, gorgeous, talented YouTube personality, licensed, certified technician, certified clinical. Oh my God. And now she has a new job. We're waiting for her. My first guest on my series. Beautiful Nini. Thank you so much, girl. You made my month of March. Thank you so very much for being with me.